you went to the same high school as Chris Hemsworth.
I did.
If we were to go back and what's the name of the high school?
Heathmont College.
Heathmont College, which is not a high school, it's a college.
Well, no, it's a high school. It's like when you're.
But why
in
is it
your
called a
teens.
college?
I don't know. That's what we do in Australia. It's to like make it sound more fancy.
Is there like a Hall of Fame? Is Chris Hemsworth in that?
He would be in it.
Right?
I would not be.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
And then are you
be in the
others
Hall of
receiving
Fame.
votes maybe? Can we get like a little
I'm-
postage
I'm,
stamp size picture of
I'm
you?
Jarek McKinnon.
I'm friends with Chris.
Yeah.
I've met him twice.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour and a happy Friday to you. I'm Connor Rogers, joined by Matthew Berry and Heathmont College, a.k.a. Heathmont High School's own, the famous Jay Croucher.
That's right. I love that you claim you're friends with Chris Hemsworth and then immediately pivot to that you've met him twice. It's not a friend. You can't claim that.
The way I meet people, yes, yeah, absolutely.
You make that kind of impact?
No, but I want to be clear here. Yes, Chris Hemsworth is my friend.
Okay.
Chris Hemsworth. Now, am I Chris
Plus
Hemsworth
800.
fan?
That's a better question.
No, like if Chris Hemsworth were here and you said, "Hey, are you friends with Matthew Berry?" His response would be, "Who?"
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But I'm just,
Yes.
but yes,
Friendship it's a versatile thing.
It's a very versatile thing. It's a very loosey-goosey word. It's
very fluid.
So very, very fluid. I mean, listen, I've met you guys a lot more, but I just be clear,
we're not friends.
if all three of you were on fire and I only had one bucket of water, I got Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, I would tell you to do the same thing.
Just 1,000%.
American hates Chris Hemsworth.
No, but by the way, you sit here and Jay, Connor, you weren't here yesterday, and you're like, oh, wow, we get joking about Jay Croucher being in the Hall of Fame of whatever school that was.
Heathmont High College.
Heathmont College.
Heathmont
you guys
College,
keep calling
yeah,
it high.
Heathmont
It's not high.
College.
It's college, even though it's a high school.
But he actually is in the Hall of Fame, right? If you believe everything you read on the internet.
Which we do.
Check this out. Look at this. Hunter
man,
Ryberg says, "Let it be known," tweets at CroucherJD, that's Jay's Twitter handle, "Let it be known that I have made you an honorable alumni of Heathmont College." So he went to the Wikipedia. Who knew Heathmont College had a Wikipedia page?
Yeah, that was plus 500 in itself.
Right, exactly.
Big cashing in.
And some
and
pretty
then,
notable names.
yes.
Chris Hemsworth, Liam Hemsworth, Danny Allsop, the striker for Melbourne Victory. He could play, Connor. Let me tell you, Danny Allsop could play.
Sure.
So not a bad
Jay
lineup to be
Croucher.
a part of.
And then Jay Croucher gets in there.
Yeah, very much the end of the list.
Again, very loosey-goosey guidelines there on the Wikipedia.
Like
but,
Twitter verification now.
Like Twitter
Yeah,
verification.
unfortunately, my name's in red. You click on it, nothing happens, but that's fine.
fair
Yeah,
enough, but
we need a
whatever.
source.
There you go.
Yeah,
Listen. You're Hall of Fame for your high school, and I'm best friends with Chris Hemsworth.
Yes, exactly right.
BFFs.
And I'm just here to have a good time.
That's right. Not
That's
for
all
a
that
long
matters.
time, but you here
No.
are for a good time. At least 55 minutes. Before we get into it, one last thing, Connor. I just want to take one moment to acknowledge it is Veterans Day, and just say I know I speak for everyone here in the cast and crew of the Happy Hour, saying thank you to our servicemen and women, past, present, and future, and their families. I always think that the families never get mentioned, and it's like their sacrifices to allow the servicemen and women to serve our country, to protect our freedoms. Like a mention on a streaming internet fantasy football show or a tweet or my love-hate column this week is about veterans. Like none of that is adequate enough to truly thank the sacrifices that veterans have made for our country. But I think it's important to acknowledge, and so I know I speak for everyone here
Absolutely.
in the show
Yep.
where we say Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. Thank you for allowing us the freedom to wear makeup on the internet and talk about fake football.
That's exactly right. And make fun of Jay's college, high school.
Right, yeah,
middle,
exactly.
Middle school.
College.
Whatever it is.
Whatever
it is.
We don't know. So,
All right. I think we've delayed talking about this crappy game.
well-
I've tried to put it off as long as possible.
I was going with the
NFC
bit.
South?
We have
Love the
to.
NFC
We have
South.
to address
we
it.
are contractually obligated to talk about this crappy game last
Thursday night football, the Panthers defeat Jay's Falcons.
Yeah, I'm off them.
Yeah, you're done with that. 25-15. Not a ton here, fellas, but one very, very notable performance. Deontay Foreman, that train continues to roll, Barry. I remember when CMC got traded, you said Foreman's the guy. 31 rush attempts, 130 rushing yards, a touchdown, 19 fantasy points.
Where are all you Chuba Hubbard fans out there? All those stands were like, oh, he's going to be the PPR back, and blah, blah, it's going to be a committee. Steve Wilkes did say it's a committee, but I was very
Doesn't
clear.
look like one.
He's the better running back. Deontay Foreman is the better running back. I will admit, I did not think he was going to be able to have over 100 rushing yards in 3 of the last 4 games the way he has. I didn't think he'd have 248 yards and 4 touchdowns against the pathetic Atlanta Falcons. But I did think he was the better running back. I did think this was a guy who was really productive filling in for Derrick Henry last year. I thought he was much better than Chuba Hubbard. He was this is who you're going with. He made the love list this week as well, and he cashed in. And for, by the way, Panthers won. They're hot now.
Yeah, they're very live in the NFC South, let me tell you. Just you just have to be
interdivisional win.
Yeah,
interdivisional win. Good for the Carolina Panthers, especially after the beatdown they got last week against to turn around on a short week and to come out and beat a divisional rival, the first place Falcons or whatever they are. I'm just, good for Carolina. Keep pounding.
Yep. There's not many running backs who have a ceiling to be able to get 31 carries in a game, which D'Onta Foreman did. And I think as well the fact that P.J. Walker didn't really throw the ball at all. They're going to be a running offense going forward. And they might be playing relevant games a month from now.
Not throwing the ball, bad news for DJ Moore. I feel like we say bad news for DJ Moore almost every week on this show. 6 targets, only 4 catches, under 30 yards, no touchdowns, no surprise there.
Yeah.
It just
the PJ to DJ thing is
dead.
Yeah, burn
the
your
shirts sold though.
Yeah,
they sold.
Burn your T-shirts. So. We can turn them back. No return. No, by the way, no take-backs, no cash back, all sales are final.
What kills me is we can see what I tweeted last night, that I'll go to my grave thinking the Panthers would have won the NFC South if DJ Moore hadn't taken his helmet off. I really think that would be extremely live, although to be fair, Pinheiro probably would have missed the PAT anyway because he was completely in his own head. But at the same time, they'd be right there for the division. We talked about it at 20-1.
So frustrating. Meanwhile, by the way, Jalen Ramsey did the exact same thing last week, where he pulled he made the big stop and pulled his helmet off, and no penalty.
Yeah, it's the same. How is the Lambeau leap not a 15-yard penalty every time? It's a preconceived celebration. I just don't get it. Just let them celebrate. Who cares?
Or never let them celebrate, but just call consistently. That's the issue with the National Football League, is the inconsistency of the calls. Inconsistency is something that also happened with this Panthers offense last night. I thought I literally yesterday, Connor, I took the over on 0.5 touchdown passes for PJ Walker. That was the line, 0.5. And the juice was minus 225. I'm like, but come on. Yeah. Falcons have given multiple touchdown passes in every single game. He threw a couple against them last time. Whatever. It's minus 225. It's a lot of juice, but whatever. It's free money. Just do it. Take the over on 0.5 touchdown passes for PJ Walker. But no.
You missed it by 0.5 of a yard.
Exactly. And LaVisca, seriously, PJ, let him get two steps and then you hit him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or instead of doing that swing up pass, just do the BS bubble thing that they count as a
the Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, the Aaron Rodgers, the Mahomes, the little chest pass, But yesterday was very frustrating to me.
Yeah.
Last night, very frustrating. Very frustrating.
It's a bad game of football. DJ Moore, as you mentioned, bad game for him. I just think the game script just got away from him. The Panthers are not going to be able to nurse a 2-score lead
in bad weather.
Games, in bad weather as well. So I think you're fine with DJ Moore. It's a low-end wide receiver 2 the rest of the way.
Yeah, or wide receiver 3. Again, still on the season, he has a 28% target share.
Yeah.
He's too talented. That's just too much volume. Bad day at the office on a short week. We always hate these Thursday night games. Weird that for the first time in a long time, the Falcons actually stopped somebody defensively. The weather and P.J. Walker's inconsistency had something to do with that. We'll see if Walker is the starting quarterback next week. I sort of think weirdly for DJ Moore, even after this game, I still think if you have DJ Moore, I think you want Walker over Baker Mayfield.
Sure.
Just based on the earlier season. But either way, I agree with you. I'm not taking too much out of it. Was a disappointing game, obviously, but I think he's still I would probably more high upside wide receiver 3 because he's got that ability. But yeah, he's he's in that mix.
And we'll see where that quarterback situation goes. Sam Darnold maybe playing at some point.
It's
nothing to be excited about.
Sam Darnold's music.
Yes.
The background behind the bar.
The glass shatters.
Sam.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
A team that does not have to worry about celebration penalties, guys, last night, the Falcons offense, they didn't really have many chances to do so. Cordero Patterson, only 5 rushes, 6 touches for Cordero Patterson. Obviously a huge disappointment for him and this entire offense as a whole.
And me. Why, stop
Mainly
with Cordero
Matthew
Patterson.
Barrett.
Can we talk about me for a second? I had Cordero,
We never do that.
Hey, I had Cordero Patterson on the love list. Okay, I had Cordero Patterson on the love list, and I took the over. I took the over on 53 and a half rushing yards yesterday on our BetMGM best bets.
Which climbed?
I beat the I beat the closing price.
Yes.
That's all that matters.
As I was consoling you about on the call before the show, it only matters if you beat the closing price, because that's going to be more predictive going forward.
Who cares about making money?
It's not, the closing price doesn't put a blanket on you as Cordero Patterson goes for 18 rushing yards and doesn't sniff the over, but at the same time, it was a good bet.
0 touches in the fourth quarter, right? He played only 2 snaps. It's his fewest rush attempts and yards in a game this season. What happened to establishing it, Arthur Smith? Yeah. What happened to establishing it? I know you were down, but you don't care about that.
Yeah. Carolina Panthers rushing defense waxes and wanes between worst in NFL history to best in the league each week. I don't know what the hell happened against Cincinnati, because that was just a fluke occurrence. If they'd been a decent rushing defense all season until that point, I think, and this is completely unfounded, but I think the whole team must have been sick or something, because that is just that's ridiculous to be that bad and then this good. Something must have been wrong.
After it's 3 days, but this here, and I don't I started Patterson in a couple of leagues, so super annoying. You'd at least think he'd get the volume. I know he played limited snaps, but he has every game that he's been active, he's been the leading rusher in terms of at least attempts and in terms of usage, and he wasn't last night. So you're like, I guess maybe you think maybe it's because short week, and maybe his first game back coming with the injury and the short and the usage he had last week, but still you didn't expect that. No. Certainly in a matchup against Carolina here. By the way, 3 different leagues. I'm in 15, 16 leagues, so it's a lot. But 3 different leagues, including this stupid show league.
It's a great show league.
I hate it.
It's my favorite league.
I hate our show
league.
I hate our show league with a fiery passion. Right? So 3 different leagues. People started Drake London against me. What the F are you doing, right? Why are you starting Drake London? He's been awful. He shouldn't even be rostered in leagues.
Back.
He's been fantasy desolate for so long. So really you're starting Drake London, man? Okay, well and now of course Drake London for the first time since week 3 shows up.
Yeah.
Scores a touchdown against me.
From Marcus Mariota, which seemed impossible.
F this entire game. Yes. It's the right. First touchdown since week 3.
Honestly, I think the big takeaway from this game, from Atlanta's perspective, is that Marcus Mariota was horrific. That was a comically bad performance from Mariota. It was uncomfortable to watch how bad he was, and I think that
he was Marcus Mariota-like.
Well, but he'd been a top 10 fantasy quarterback
with the rushing.
But I think that you feel better as a Kyle Pitts, as a Drake London manager after how bad Mariota was, because it opens the door to Desmond Ridder potentially in a couple weeks. I would just do it next week.
Should be now, yeah.
Yes, should have done it last
Should have been 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and so who knows what Desmond Ridder is, but he's different than Marcus Mariota, and something different is all you want if you have Kyle Pitts or Drake London on your team, notwithstanding what London did last night.
There's so little to take away from this game. You talk about Tyler Algier.
We should move on.
But here we are.
We should really move on.
It's Brian Rubin. Brian Rubin making us talk about this game. B. Rubes.
What kills me is that it's the Falcons' next 3 games: Bears, Commanders, Steelers. So they're probably going to be in all these games. Marcus Mariota will probably live.
Still be playing.
That's the killer.
It's awful. But in a deep league, I don't mind. They've already played, so it's probably locked. But I don't mind a speculative flyer on Desmond Ridder.
Sure.
Next week when we get to
Super
that.
flex league.
Yeah, deep. Yeah, exactly. 2 quarterback league, super flex league. There we go. I don't think. There's nothing from this game that I can take away and say this is, you know what I mean?
Deontay Foreman, he's the one.
Well, no, 1,000%. I was thinking more from the Falcons side. Kyle Pitts bad once again.
My takeaway is Kyle Pitts will be better with anyone else at quarterback. Yep. Mariota's not even throwing in the stratosphere of Kyle Pitts.
No,
that's my only Falcons
takeaway. They're using him to block. It's so insane. Atlanta, you used a top 8 overall draft pick on Drake London, and last year you made Kyle Pitts the highest tight end drafted in NFL history. You drafted him a top 5 overall. He was the number 4 overall pick 2 years ago. And you're running Tyler Algier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Caleb
a Tyler
Huntley,
Algier offense.
And converted wide receiver Cordero Patterson. Arthur Blank, will you give me 10 minutes to talk to Arthur Smith? Just me and him in a room? That's all I'm asking. Please. I'll make a donation to the Arthur Blank Foundation. Arthur Smith. I have thoughts, and Arthur Smith needs to hear them. That's what I'm saying. I have thoughts, and Arthur Smith needs to hear them.
Oh boy.
And with that, Roto-World headlines.
What do you do with Kyle Pitts? Like, I don't think you're dropping him, but
You're not starting him.
You're not. I can't imagine starting him. He's now had.
No.
He's had 2 or fewer receptions. 2 or fewer in 5 of 9 games. He's had under 30 receiving yards in 5 of 7. In 7 of 9. Kyle Pitts under 30 receiving yards in 7 of 9 games. Like, he's a touchdown-dependent tight end, and he's got 1 touchdown in the season.
I'm still starting Kyle Pitts. He got 8 targets last night. At some point, someone will throw him the ball, I believe. He's going to have a moment, and if he's on the bench in that moment for you can't live with yourself.
How many times do we got to keep waiting? Like, we know the talent.
Yeah.
And you're right. He led the team in targets last night with 8. But, like, I mean, it's killing it. I mean, like, I have him in our dumb show league. That's one of the reasons why that team's terrible. Okay. It's because Kyle freaking Pitts. It's a 14 team. I'm a 14 team league. Yeah. My 3rd round pick was Kyle Pitts. So bad pick there. It's a 2 quarterback league.
Everybody knew who you wanted.
Dak Prescott.
During the draft.
Oh, yeah, stupid Alexa takes Jalen Hurts from me. 1 pick before I'm supposed to go. Again,
Lamar Jackson, didn't you?
I got Lamar Jackson, but that ain't Jalen Hurts. Like, it screwed up the karma of my team. I had a whole plan because I thought my producer was going to support me.
We should just show the standings. We should open the show. It's the standings.
No,
do
not show the standings.
Monday.
The standings look bad for me. I'm asked and answered. I'm just telling you, I'm not good in that league. I hate that team. I hate the league. I hate everything about it. You have no idea.
Connor Rogers, Jay Croucher,
I
don't want to be here.
High school Hall of Famer. I didn't even know you were in the league until like 2 weeks ago.
Literally, I'm surprised at that. I thought you just found out yesterday.
It's ridiculous. By the way, I'm also like, whatever. Drake London scores a touchdown, but I'm still like, he still had 7 straight games.
We've got to stop talking about the game. We really got to stop.
Yeah, we really do. And with that, we are going to move on to Roto-World headlines, starting with
Terrace Marshall did cover, though. At least that one. That one did hit.
One
catch, but whatever. It's still
a big one.
He hit the over. We
No
did give
OFA.
that prop out. That one at least hit.
It did.
If there was one positive of last night, Deontay Foreman, who was on the love list, and the Terrace Marshall prop that hit. All right. World headlines.
Starting with our headlines here, the Raiders placed Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow both on IR. Waller's been dealing with his hamstring for quite a bit. Renfrow dealing with a oblique. Barry, when you look at this offense, we know you're going to start Devontae Adams. We know you're going to start Josh Jacobs. But is there anybody else now that's playable as those 2 head to the IR?
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, just we talk about the wasteland that is tight end. I think Foster Moreau becomes interesting. 19 targets in the 3 games that Waller has missed. He's had at least 3 catches in 4 of 5 games so far this season. Colts aren't necessarily great against opposing tight ends. I think the middle of the field is a place where you can attack Indianapolis. So I think he's a viable tight end 2 type streamer. I have him at tight end 14 for the week. So Foster Moreau becomes interesting. And then, Matt Collins. I've talked about Matt Collins. I love Matt Collins.
Can we put Matt Collins in the Panthers-Falcons game? Because I feel like that's kind of his zone. That's where he really cooks.
Well, you think about the week 3 game for the Raiders when Hunter Renfrow did not play. 8 for 158 and a touchdown. That was his best game. He's had 3 different games where he's gotten 8 or more targets so far this year. He's averaging 18.3 fantasy points per game. In those games, he's had over 12 fantasy points in 2 of the last 3. And so with no Hunter Renfrow or Darren Waller, and Josh Jacobs seems to have slowed down a little bit, I think Matt Collins is, kind of is a high upside wide receiver 4. Again, it'd have to be a pretty deep league, and you have to be either, bye week hurt or, it's a 12-team, 3 wide receiver league, and you've got a couple guys on bye and you're looking for somebody. So, I mean, don't go crazy, but I do think Matt Collins has some viable fantasy value.
I think the main thing is that the real estate on the island of Foster Moreau just got a little bit pricier.
Sure.
I think that he will be the guy who benefits most from this. And the thing is that when you think about the Raiders overall, like Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow weren't doing anything anyway. And a lot of their upside came from those guys getting right. And so that hurts. But I do think that there should be enough here for Foster Moreau to provide some value you feel fine starting Foster Moreau.
Looking over at the Colts, Jonathan Taylor, a full participant in Thursday's practice. He's expected to play Sunday. Jay, And he is practicing today.
Yes.
Jay, do you think that this can be the beginning of a little bit of a redemption tour? Obviously, we're very sorry that that's who they drafted #1 overall, but can he get his season back on track?
I think he can, just because of the talent. Again, coming off, it feels like years and years ago, but he's coming off one of the greatest running back seasons of all time, behind basically the same bad offensive line. So I do think there is upside. I do think Jeff Saturday, for whatever is going to happen, he creates variance at least, and it's different. And also, I don't think they're going to let Sam Ehlinger drop back 40 times. So Taylor has a path. I would say the rest of the way that I would project him to be in the Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders type of range. So not in the Saquon, Derrick Henry type of range, but, as an RB 12, 13 there going forward, but certainly some upside for Taylor.
I have him running back 13 this week. One of the issues that the Colts have had this year is their offensive line. And so Jeff Saturday comes in, no coaching experience at the college or NFL level, but this guy was an all-pro center. This guy was one of the best offensive linemen in football while he played. He's Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers. Like he was center for a number of great quarterbacks who speak very, very highly of him. Peyton wanted Peyton's last snap on the Colts, like when he was getting his number retired, he went on the field and had Saturday snap him the ball. So if there's something that we would think that Jeff Saturday will address in his first stint as a coach at any level, is hey, one thing I know is how to freaking block, and so maybe he helps the run game here a little bit and get them into it. Las Vegas, it is worth noting, is a bottom 12 run defense over the last 4 weeks. So it is something that you can run on. They give it the 6th most rush attempts. So hopefully Jonathan Taylor, I think if he's active, and it sounds like he is stardom. He's my running back 13. Worth noting, Deion Jackson has not practiced yet this week.
Jeff Saturday, 150-1 to win Coach of the Year.
There we go.
GM. Actually, don't hate it, just because what if they turn it around and win the AFC South? Everyone loves Jeff Saturday as well. People in the media are voting on this award. Everyone loves. He's got 100% approval rating as a man.
Oh yeah.
Gives great press conferences and speeches. I don't know, 150-1.
He's that guy. As someone who knows him in person, he is a friend.
He's not Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth or a little beyond.
I mean, no one's closer than me and Chris Hemsworth. But no, Jeff Saturday is. I obviously worked with him for a number of years at ESPN, and he did my show a number of times. And in terms of where we watch the Sunday games, it's a weird thing, but there's actually sort of assigned seating. It's a whole thing.
But one day I want to hear more about that. But
it's just because you have random producers coming in and out and everything like that. So it's just sort of knowing where. Anyway, whatever. You sit in sort of the same spot every week. But the point is that for 1 year, my assigned seat and Jeff Saturday's assigned seat were next to each other. So I sat next to him. He didn't always come in.
Forced friendship.
Yeah. Forced friendship. Yeah. That's right, like us.
Yeah, exactly like us.
Like us. There you go. You're my Jeff Saturday.
Yeah. Well, I'm head coach for an NFL team. That's fantastic.
Yeah, anything's possible.
One more running back on the men. Kyren Williams could return in Week 10 against the Cardinals. Barry, do you expect him to be the lead running back for this Rams backfield? And honestly, does that matter this season?
It potentially could.
Okay.
As Hall of Fame high schooler Jay Croucher says all the time, at least it's change, right? It's we know what the known is, and the known is any good, but this is unknown. Kyren Williams. I can tell you these are the things I do know. I do know that the Rams absolutely love him, and they're excited to get him back, and they're very excited about him. And I also know that Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers and Ronnie Rivers and Malcolm Brown have done nothing. So they're looking for some sort of spark in this position. So he'll get opportunity. And that's, in fantasy, that's half the battle. Just can your player get the opportunity to produce fantasy points? I'm not starting him this week against Arizona, but I'm certainly rostering him and picking him up wherever I can because there's a chance. And I can't tell you if it's a 10% chance or a 90% chance, but there is a chance that he, wait for it, runs away with a job.
There you go. Yeah, I think you touched on it. The thing with Kyren Williams is that he's just a different human being to the other human beings who have been bad. And so there's the chance that he'll be good. I think it's probably a no-hope situation because of the offensive line.
Yeah.
But I do think that he has a prayer.
I think for me, the one area where he can help is we know they're bad, the Rams. They're going to have to throw the ball because of game script. He's good at catching the ball and pass blocking.
Sure.
So maybe it's not the prettiest fantasy points, but in PPR, I think he has a chance to contribute.
There's no question about that. Hey, so we're up against the break, and so when we come back, we got a lot more. Pat Kerrane's going to join us, our buddy from Rotoworld. But just, I want to take a moment here as we're talking about buddies from Rotoworld. Really tough day for us here at NBC Sports, okay? As you may have seen on social media or in the news, a bunch of layoffs hit Comcast and NBC, and specifically NBC Sports Rotoworld. And it sucks. There's literally no good way to say it. It sucks. Like our friends and colleagues that we love working with, that have done good work, that have worked on this show, that have worked on my columns, on your content, lost their jobs, and that sucks. And I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that, to thank them for their work, to tell them that we already miss them, to say, hey, we wish you well. We know you guys will crush wherever it is you land, and you will land on your feet. We know it's an unfortunate part of corporate America these days, and I don't know. There's nothing good. Words are inadequate here, but I just want to acknowledge that it is a tough day for all of us here at NBC Sports and Rotoworld and NBC Sports Edge, because we've lost a lot of friends, and we've lost a lot of really talented colleagues, and it just, it sucks. And so we miss you, and thank you for everything, and we wish you the greatest amount of luck going forward, even though we don't think you'll need it, because we know you guys will land on your feet.
Well said, Barry, and obviously fully agree. And with that, we are going to go to break. And when we are back, we'll do a little fantasy rich and fantasy poor. That was Travis Kelce hyped after a win, and that is what they do. The Chiefs are never out of it. All right, let's get into some fantasy rich, fantasy poor, because we are going to start with the Chiefs. But if you've noticed, behind me,
we have a bartender. Terrifying when unaddressed.
Yeah. Pat Kerrane from Rotoworld joins us. Pat, how are we doing up there?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
It's good to have a bartender.
Yeah, you're like Woody from Cheers now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
We should have gotten him props needed to get him like a bar, like
a towel?
towel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like that.
We'll work on that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think we have
It's
the
only
budget
way
for that?
Yeah, we get a towel.
All right, good.
I love it.
Find that one. Yeah, exactly. We'll go to a hotel and steal one. All right, so
I think we can afford that.
I don't know that
You're
we
in
can.
for the thrill?
Honestly, I'm not sure that we
Jesus.
can.
Oh, boy.
I don't know. All right, listen. All right, so anyway, Pat Kerrane does the rundown every single week for rotoworld.com. It's a great article. Gets you everything you need to know about pretty much every game and player that's happening in week number 10. Highly recommended. Be sure to read it as well. And Pat joins us here at the happy hour at the bar. Our very own Woody. All right. You go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. No, that was great.
No,
I appreciate that. Yeah, give me a breather. Well done.
There you go.
All right, we're going to, as we hinted off the top, we're going to start with the Chiefs. Jacksonville traveling to Kansas City. The Chiefs are 9.5-point favorites in this game. The over-under, always a good sign for Fantasy Rich when it's set near 50. This one is at 50.5. Pat, why is this a fantasy-rich environment?
Yeah, this is the highest totaled game of the week, and for good reason. This is kind of like a shot of espresso with a shot of tequila. This game's
Espresso martini, baby.
Yeah,
that's right. Fire it up.
Yeah. So when we look at this game, you look at the Chiefs. They're super pass-heavy. They are the most pass-heavy team in the league relative to game script. The lowest they've gone this season is an 11% pass rate over expected. That is what the Bills are averaging. So the Chiefs' floor is like an average Bills game in terms of pass heaviness. It's not just passing volume that we can expect here, it's efficiency. This Jaguars defense ranks 27th in coverage grade, and they've had an easy schedule. And they've gotten kind of lucky going against Jalen Hurts in the wind and the rain, going against Justin Herbert when he was really banged up with the ribs injury. I think this defense could get really exposed here by Patrick Mahomes. On the other side, Trevor Lawrence coming off one of his best games of the season. You also have an explosive rushing element with Travis Etienne, which should help keep this game high scoring. And I think that the Jaguars could ultimately lean into this shootout script with Trevor Lawrence playing a little bit better over the last couple weeks.
Barry, let's start with the flex players for Kansas City. Mecole Hardman is on a bit of a tear right now, which is hard to digest. Maybe a little bit of luck, maybe not that case. And Jerick McKinnon, of course, as well. Hearing that kind of rich environment for them, how do you evaluate the boost that they get as flex guys?
Now, Mecole Hardman's been banged up, and he hasn't practiced this week. So let's see what happens today. So I want to put a pin in Mecole Hardman. I will say, however, Jerick McKinnon had a 62% snap rate last week. He's led this backfield in snaps in 4 straight weeks as well. And you think about the matchup against the Jaguars, who allow the second most receptions to opposing running backs this year. Think about Jerick McKinnon, who had 6 targets last week. I do think, again, if you're running back desperate, he's my running back 35, so let's not get crazy. But again, as you're thinking about a cheap DFS play, if you want to punt the position there, or you're looking for some upside in a PPR format like your a 12-team or deeper league, I think McKinnon is kind of an interesting play this week.
Jay, sounds like pass-happy script on both sides of the ball. We know the Chiefs are going to throw no matter what, but Jacksonville, especially if they're playing from behind, Travis Etienne and Christian Kirk, they're starting in your lineup. We're not worried about that, but Trevor Lawrence and maybe even Evan Ingram, guys that are streamers or flex options, if they are playing from behind, how does that impact their performances?
Yeah. Well, firstly, good start from Pat up there behind the bar. Better bartender for mine than Tom Cruise in Cocktail, who I don't think poured a single drink in that movie. He was just flipping things the entire time.
He's got better moves.
I never understood. Yeah, very strange movie. Very bad movie, actually.
Yeah.
Despite the presence of my fellow Australian Brian Brown, if you're watching Brian. Trevor Lawrence.
He turns out to be the bad guy, right?
Yeah, it gets real dark.
It gets really dark. It's a weird movie. You're like, oh, this just be fun and games in a bar. It's Tom Cruise picking up girls. And then, nope, it turns out there's bad stuff going on.
There's death, there's family stuff.
Yeah.
Also, like, they spend the entire time, like, flipping bottles at bars, and, like, everyone at the bar is just fine with that. No one's getting a drink. That entire film, it's the stupidest thing ever. Anyway.
It's awful. Right, yeah. And he's just, Key Largo.
Yeah. Can I get a drink?
Yeah,
Tom?
Tom? Right, exactly. Yeah, the whole thing is, the whole thing's awful.
Anyway.
I don't mind ruining that one because we're saving you 2 hours.
Exactly. Trevor Lawrence has been better than that film of late, certainly in the second half, against the Raiders, where he kind of saved their season. I think the most interesting thing about Lawrence, and this is kind of a macro thing, where he's been so bad in the red zone all year. We talked about this yesterday. Yeah. He's been pretty good up until he gets to
between
the
20s. He's fine.
Yeah, he's great. To your point, he's the Kirk Cousins. He's the new Kirk Cousins.
He's the Australian Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, exactly. Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, he does have a kind of Australian surfer kind of haircut going on. And look, there's statistically nothing says that quarterbacks should get worse in the red zone relative to the rest of the field. That hasn't borne out over the course of NFL history. So I think that Lawrence should get right, should be more touchdowns. Again, 9.5-point dogs, so they should be throwing. And then they're going to be throwing to Evan Ingram, who before last week had 6 targets in 4 straight games. So I think you're fine starting both of those guys.
I have Ingram at tight end 13. I agree with you there. Lawrence, I absolutely love this week. He's my QB 9. We talked about him yesterday on the Love-Hate show, Connor. The fact of the matter is that prior to the game last week when the Chiefs faced Malik Willis, every single game prior to the Malik Willis game, they've given up multiple passing touchdowns the Chiefs had. And obviously, you can't give up multiple passing touchdowns if they never pass.
Yep.
So, I'm not counting the Malik Willis game against them. So I do think, to your point and to Pat's point, in a game in which we expect the Jaguars to be trailing and a lot of points to be scored, Lawrence makes a very good streamer, or he's a viable QB1. The only thing I will say about the red zone thing is just talking, I've worked with a lot of former quarterbacks. This is something I've talked about with Chris Sims here, which is just when you get into the red zone, it's just you don't have as much room. It's just much more condensed, and so it's a different kind of plays that you have to call because you just don't have as much room to operate.
That would be my thought. I would think it should be a skill that you should be different in the red zone to the rest of the field, but it hasn't really borne out statistically. Like, you're just good, and it's slight, gradations, but that might be something to watch with Lawrence. And also, it's about his personnel as well that he's throwing to.
Absolutely.
There is that.
And he's a young quarterback that'll learn to let a play die. It felt like he just wouldn't let a play die as soon as they get into the red.
Right.
Yeah.
Who else hasn't learned that? Aaron Rodgers.
Still got time. Almost 40.
It's still got time. He actually, listen, he completed a lot. People are like, oh, he's terrible in the red zone. He completed a lot of passes in the red zone last
went
week.
into hands.
Just to the Lions. Yeah. But whatever. I mean, if we're going to nitpick on what color the jersey is, the fact of the matter is he completed passes in the red zone. In the end zone. Aaron Rodgers did.
Good job by you, Aaron.
Our next fantasy.
$150 million doesn't buy what it used to.
No.
Jay?
No. $250 million doesn't either.
No.
If Denver is anything to go by.
Apparently not. That's right. Everyone wants to bag on the Commanders, but we're getting crappy quarterback play for league minimum with Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
So who's laughing now? Yeah. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. There you go.
There's not that much difference between Taylor Heineke and Russell Wilson at the moment.
There isn't. No, just one bad Subway sandwich.
Yeah, exactly.
Pat, we haven't forgotten about you back there. Yeah, I don't want you in the Tom Cruise mold of apparently just flipping bottles and not doing anything. I haven't seen that movie, but
the liquor is real up here. So
no, the liquor is real up there, 100%. If you could learn to flip, that would be great.
So we'll go right to our next fantasy-rich environment. The Browns, 3.5-point underdogs, traveling to Miami. The over/under set at 49.5, a very similar total to Jaguars-Chiefs. Obviously, the Dolphins, we know they can throw the ball, but the Browns in this as well, making it a fantasy-rich environment.
Yeah, the Browns side of this is interesting because they have a really, really good running game. They're going up against a Dolphins run game that's pretty good, but is susceptible to the long play. We saw that last week with Justin Fields, and we have an explosive running back in Nick Chubb being susceptible to long runs. Pretty bad weakness to have if Nick Chubb is on tap. So I think that could help speed the game up. The Browns should be pretty successful. On the Dolphins side, the goal of this whole offense is to get the ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in the middle of the field, downfield, to Tagovailoa. He leads the NFL in attempts in the middle of the field, traveling at least 10 yards. He leads the NFL in completions on those throws as well. He's missed 2 games and yet still leads the league. That's what this offense is designed to do. But in order for that plan to work, they need to be able to protect Tua. 89% of those attempts have come from a clean pocket. I think what the Dolphins have here that's an advantage is that they now have this running game working with Jeff Wilson, and they're going against a Browns defense that is terrible against the run. So they should be a little less predictable and be able to keep the Browns defense on their heels, continuing this really concentrated passing attack. I think this is kind of like a strong whiskey cocktail. You know, it's very concentrated but powerful.
Oh, he's coming hot, Pat. He's coming hot.
So he's really owned the bartender role.
I was just going to say, like, you know what? Say what you want about Pat Kerrane, but he is he is leaned into. Well, I know you guys, but I like Pat, but you know.
Yeah, that's true.
But
yeah,
I'm just saying, like, listen, we can America. You guys can say what you want about Pat Kerrane, but he has leaned into this. Absolutely, you've embraced the bit, and I appreciate that. Well done. Well done. By the way, speaking of bartending and night clubbing and everything like that, I'm just curious. I'm just hypothetical. If you spent most of your year in Cleveland,
sure,
and then you got a weekend in Miami, you back at your hotel at 8 o'clock to just study the playbook on Saturday night?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Well, it can only help. Well,
it's
been a thing in the NBA forever that if you're playing the Heat on a Sunday morning, you're in trouble.
You bet the Heat. Right, exactly.
You bet the Heat.
There's a couple of cities like that, by the way. It's like it's LA, it's Miami, it's Atlanta. You know, like when especially if it's a second, you know, it's the back to back. Yeah, exactly. Those are like the easiest bets in the world. Anyway. Okay. So
Dolphins backfield is where I want to start because I want to talk about your rankings and how you break down Mostert, Jeff Wilson. Obviously, Wilson looked really good for them.
Sure.
But must start has been reliable throughout the year. So how do you handle that situation with Miami?
Well, listen, first thing I do is, which one has been on the podcast? Okay, that's the one that gets ranked higher.
That's smart, yeah.
I mean, you know, it's science. So, look, I have Raheem Mostert at 23. I have Jeff Wilson at 25. The fact of the matter is that, yes, the positives of Wilson, he's out-touched Mostert 12-10 in his first game. He led the backfield in both snaps and target share. He scored the touchdown on the pass. I don't know how sustainable that is as well. I think they're both going to be there. I gave Mostert the slight edge, not only because he's been on the podcast, but because he's been there longer. And it feels like that despite last week, I still feel like Mostert has the better chance at a touchdown. Obviously, it's slight 23-20, 25 as well. It's worth noting the Browns allowed the 4th most fantasy points to opposing running backs so far this year, and they're tied for the 3rd most rushing touchdowns allowed to opposing running backs. I do think must start, Raheem the Dream. I think he gets into the end zone in this one.
Real quick, any streaming interest with Mike Gesicki, who's just wildly up and down?
So when Durham Smythe is active, and he's practiced this week, we expect him to be active, he's averaging 5.6 fantasy points per game, right? He's had one game with a target share above 12% when Durham Smythe is active. So, no.
I like it.
I have no interest. He's my tight end 20.
Perfect. Jay, on the other side of the ball, Cleveland.
I'm taking a Pasadena.
Nick Chubb expected to absolutely explode in this game, but when you look at Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones, Miami's defense has been bad. Yes. We're not saying Cleveland's a powerhouse throw team, but this seems like an opportunity that at least one of those guys should get a little bit of a boost here.
Yeah, the Amari Cooper thing on the road is just so strange. I don't understand it. As someone who, when I was, setting lines, I would try and take out that kind of stuff because it's just like, why is he so much worse on the road? It doesn't really make sense. It's why I never really buy into the
places like Miami.
Maybe it's places like Miami.
Might be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about Amari Cooper. I don't know anything about what kind of person he is. I will say that though. I want to take Amari Cooper out of it for a second because this is not fair to him. I want to just say in general. NFL players are like people, right? And if you just think about your own personal life, right? There are people in your life that are party animals, and there are people in your life that are really, studious and all in between. And so there are NFL players out there that are, that don't take the job super seriously and, go out and party, and some are talented enough to get away with it and some aren't. And then there are also people there are players that take it really serious, that understand it's a job, and they, hey, I may not have as much ability as the next guy, but I'm going to outwork him. And so it's like all those kind of things. So again, I don't want to cast that aspersion because I have no idea on Amari Cooper. What I will tell you is the numbers say is that not only is he bad on the road this year, he's bad on the road for his career. His career numbers on the road, whether it's away from the Raiders, whether it's away from the Cowboys, whether it's away from the Browns, he has been better at home than he has been on the road for his career.
Yep.
And so that's a large enough sample size that you're just like, there's something there. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
I can't explain it, but there's something there. And then you add to the fact that since week 5, the Dolphins allow the 8th fewest yards per game to perimeter wide receivers. We expect Xavier Howard to be mostly a shadow on this one. I think you're still starting Amari Cooper. He's been so good, and you're missing T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and and other guys, Garrett Wilson this week, right? And Jacoby Myers and what have you, and Keenan Allen's hurt. So you may need a wide receiver. I don't know that you have the luxury of benching Amari Cooper. I'm just saying I would lower expectations. What's the line on him? What's his receiving line on BetMGM? Because I'll take the under.
I'm not sure. It's going to be in the 60s, though.
I would take the under.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're 100% right. I do think that, look, home field advantage is the thing. It's harder for everyone to play on the road theoretically, and probably the things that make it harder are just more pronounced with Amari Cooper for some reason, playing in foreign environs, playing with travel, with different sleeping arrangement, all that stuff matters.
It matters.
Quickly on DPJ.
Apparently, by the way, the over on Amari Cooper apparently is heavily bet, is what I'm being told in my ear. It's like one of the most popular bets for that game. So even more reason to take the
Matthew
under.
Berry versus America.
That's right. Fade the public.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's had at least 4 receptions each of the last 5 weeks. That's all he needs to produce because he can get the deep ball. The touchdowns will come for him. Just quickly, last thing on that game, Tua Tagovailoa has been the best quarterback in the NFL so far this year. He's lapping the field in EPA per play, DVOA, first-ranked quarterback in PFF grade. I think people need to kind of switch on to the fact that it's not just Tyreek Hill. Tua Tagovailoa is very good, and this Dolphins team is very good too.
Just to that point, though, by the way, Dolphins are favored in this game, and so Cleveland, in their last 4 losses, Jacoby Brissett averaging over 35 pass attempts a game. Dolphins give up touchdown passes at the 7th highest rate. I do think Jacoby Brissett is a viable streamer this week.
Yep.
All right, our fantasy poor matchup for Week 10. The Cowboys 4.5-point favorites going to Green Bay. Sounds kind of crazy if you said that in August, but things change. Pat, the over-under in this game set at a low bar of 43. Tell me everything that scares you with this one for offensive output.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers couldn't get things going against the Lions last week, as Matthew was pointing out, throwing to the wrong team. He now gets a very difficult Cowboys team led by this extremely formidable pass rush. They rank first in PFF's pass rush grades, first in quick pressure rate. Rodgers is now the least efficient quarterback in the NFC North. It's been a really rough season for him. I think we're looking at another painful day for the Packers offense. Then on the Cowboys side, I'm actually not that confident that we're going to see efficient passing offense from the Cowboys either. Dak Prescott has been really good in his last 2 games since returning from injury, but he's gotten the Lions defense and the Bears defense. He now gets a much stronger Packers defense that ranks 11th in efficiency allowed per dropback, 10th in dropback success rate. I think we could see the Cowboys go pretty conservative here because the way you beat the Packers is through the run game, but we have Ezekiel Elliott coming back here, split backfield. If this was all Tony Pollard, I might be excited about an explosive rushing attack. It's harder to be excited with Zeke back. This game's kind of looking like a warm beer.
Oh, God.
Good finish. Good by you, Pat.
done.
That's good.
Despite all the Packers' issues this year, Jay, their secondary is really good. Jair Alexander is one of the best corners in the NFL. So when you look at someone like Allen Lazard, and of course how that impacts Aaron Rodgers in this game, does that scare you at all? For Lazard, who might be more of a flex player, but Rodgers, people are figuring out, do we even start him anymore?
Yeah, I guess Trayvon Diggs gets the Allen Lazard assignment, but Lazard has been sneakily a top 20 wide receiver.
Jair.
Yeah, but yeah, it's Jair Alexander.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something
Brain
going
mush
on
right
there.
now.
I think that, look, I'm just out on Aaron Rodgers completely. He doesn't have a single game this season of 260 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He had 8 last year, so he's not coming back at this point with just the lack of receiving talent. Offensive line, Bakhtiari's been better when he's not trying to catch passes in the end zone. So I do think there is some upside with the O-line, but yeah, I don't want any part of Aaron Rodgers. Lazard is startable as a top 20 guy, even with Trayvon Diggs on him, and I don't want anything to do really with A.J. Dillon or certainly Christian Watson.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Aaron Jones is active, you're starting him. But in terms of, to your point about Lazard, he's had 5 straight games with a target share of 20% or better. He's scored in 5 of the 7 games they've had this year when they're getting close and Rodgers isn't throwing to the other team. He does look for Allen Lazard. No Romeo Doubs in this game, no Randall Cobb in this game. Aaron Jones may not be 100% if he is active. And so I do think in a game in which, to your point, they're almost a touchdown underdog, the Packers are, and we expect them to have to throw to keep up. Lazard is not only a top 20 play for me this week, but actually made the love list in this one. You mentioned, Rodgers shouldn't be started. I'm not sure Rodgers should be rostered.
No.
I mean, like if you, unless it's in a 1 quarterback league, Rodgers should not be on a roster. You shouldn't be wasting a roster spot. To Pat's point, if you can't do it against Detroit
Or Washington.
When is it going to happen?
Come on.
Hey.
That's fair. That's above,
hey,
that's above the belt.
That's you take that back, Kangaroo Jack.
Kangaroo Jack.
Like I'm just
one of our
my
true
commander,
superheroes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My Kangaroo Jack is a. Someone tweeted that out at me.
Not sure he's a superhero, but he's a character.
It's as close as here it is.
A cult hero.
Here it is. The inevitable at T.W. Tanner here. Australian superhero. It's Kangaroo Jack. This is an actual movie that was made.
It was.
Oh, yes. It's great.
Great to very strong.
It's a great
superlative.
movie.
Yeah,
I don't want to ruin it for
it's
you.
A movie. It's a movie. It's a movie.
I don't want to ruin anything for you. I'm no Jay Croucher. I will just tell you, Kangaroo Jack saves the day. I just want you to know it has a happy ending. And Kangaroo Jack saves the mother freaking day because he's an Australian super. He's the closest thing. He's a kangaroo with superpowers.
Yeah,
that's basically an
can't
Australian
claim
superhero.
Wolverine. We don't get Hugh Jackman Wolverine.
He's Canadian in canon, in the MCU canon.
Didn't
he's
you
Canadian.
Declare Paul Rudd Canadian yesterday. He's from New Jersey.
That's close. Isn't that? It's close enough.
It's not. It's not close at
it's
all.
a little
different.
You've lost it.
It's close enough. I was hoping no one would catch that. Anyway, listen, we don't have a fact checker on the show. It is what it is. Real quickly, while we were all talking, just 2 pieces of news that came in as we were talking about that Browns-Dolphins game. David Njoku has been ruled out for that game. So another game for Harrison Bryant. Maybe a slightly downgrade Jacoby Brissett, but probably better for Amari Cooper because we do think they'll be running and they'll have to be throwing quite a bit. And Steve Wilkes comes out and says, P.J. Walker continues as the starter. He will start for the Carolina Panthers. He will keep pounding in Week 11. PJ to DJ has another shot at redemption.
Lives again.
Reminder, coming up at 1 p.m. Eastern on the NFL on NBC YouTube channel, Pat Kerrane and Kyle Dvorchak are taking your DFS that is him, taking your DFS questions for Week 10. Join the conversation at the top of the hour. Also, if you want...
He'll also answer any drink questions you have.
Flat beer, espresso martini.
Exactly. Ask him how to make specialty drinks.
Yes.
I want a lot of drink questions.
Any questions
for Pat
on the film Cocktail? He's got you covered.
Fantasy football branded happy hour towel next time, courtesy of Matthew Berry. Also, if you want more from a hotel, if you want more in-depth fantasy,
a hotel with like those paste-on letters, like the stickers that you get,
If you want more in-depth fantasy analysis of every game this weekend, make sure to check out Pat Kerrane's The Walkthrough on NBCSportsEdge.com and RotoWorld.com.
More detailed fantasy analysis, not a high bar to clear on this show. But honestly,
something
if you're watching or listening to this show and you like this, just wait till you read Pat. You'll be really excited.
I feel very on the same page, and it's nice not to, I'm actually getting some of those reps, some of those today, but honestly, I get all those reps because I stand right behind Josh and I watch where he's throwing the ball and those guys' body language coming in and out of breaks. So I've gotten a lot of those reps with my eyes, the feel and visualization. So I've gotten a lot of those reps before, and it's just putting them into place.
What's on tap? That was Case Keenum, guys. That's what I do when I'm not on the show with you. I visualize the reps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Visualize the transitions, the reads.
Yeah, that's how I nailed that.
Right.
What's on tap?
You're not right. It's well done. You're one of those guys that's in the hotel room studying the playbook. You're not out. No. You're not out getting bottle service
Miami?
at 2 a.m.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Connor's not
exactly.
No.
Yeah. You walk into Live, they don't know who you are.
They would not at all. That's actually a fact.
Right. That's fair.
Yes. So I'll go with you.
Right.
Next time.
That's a good point. Right.
Matthew Berry.
Wait. They're like, wait. You're the guy that's always at the back of the line. Just waiting to get in.
Matthew's at the front of the line with Chris Hemsworth.
Yes. Him and Chris Hemsworth.
That's why me
and Jeff Saturday.
Buddies. Yeah, Jeff Saturday.
Yes, that's the trio that goes to Live.
Those are my buddies.
One of the great.
All right, let's get into the Bills' offense.
Wade and Bosch.
Josh Allen has not practiced this week.
I'll be totally happy to be Bosch. By the way, Bosch still gets a lot of money twice a year. So
it's my fault.
I'd be happy to be very happy.
Sorry,
to be
Brian.
All right, let's go. We're behind.
Yes, we absolutely are. The Bills. Josh Allen has not practiced this week. They are being very coy with this injury. I think it's almost safe to say, as this line trends the other way, it'll be the Case Keenum show. If that's the case.
Although, we should just mention this is something Jay brought up on the pre-show call, which I totally agree with. It's just worth noting that for everyone that's sitting here going, hey, the line keeps trending down. We don't think Josh Allen. This is what happened with Justin Herbert in the Jacksonville game when he hurt his ribs. The line kept trending down, and we're like, well, Vegas doesn't think he's playing, and then he played. Now, he wasn't any good, and the Jaguars killed him. But the fact of the matter is, he did, in fact, play. Right. So I am starting. I will say this, regardless of whether it's Case Keenum or Josh Allen under center, limited Josh Allen under center, I'm still starting Gabe Davis. Right. My wide receiver 29. I've said this before. He is one of those guys that you just have to start. You either always hit on 16 or you always stand. Right. And so Gabe Davis. He is East Coast Mike Williams. It's a nice matchup with the Vikings, who allow the third most yards per game to opposing wide receivers this year. Case Keenum is fine as a quarterback. I'm starting Gabe Davis as well. Devin Singletary, I have at running back 21.
Yeah, that's what I want to go and ask you, Jay. With Allen, assuming Allen's out, or compromise Josh Allen, whatever you want to call it, does that benefit a guy like Devin Singletary? Does this team maybe finally try to run the football?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think if it's Case Keenum as well, it'll be dumping the football off to Devin Singletary. I like Devin Singletary's outlook, not just on Sunday, but the rest of the season. Every season, Josh Allen's passing yards go down as it gets colder in Buffalo. They're going to run the ball more, and it probably starts this Sunday against Minnesota.
All right, Steelers coming out of the bye week, and after they have traded Chase Claypool, which Steelers pass catchers do you feel the best about coming out of this bye with Kenny Pickett?
I mean, Deontay Johnson, just from a pure talent standpoint as well. I get it. It's been a disappointing season. He's the only wide receiver in the NFL with over 75 targets and 0 touchdowns. At some point, there's got to be positive regression. We saw it, last week with Joe Mixon in a different sort of kind of way. Look, he's a top 9 in the NFL in terms of targets per game so far. He's had 5 or more catches in 7 of 8 games so far this year against the Saints. I'm at wide receiver 24. He'll probably see some Lattimore, but I prefer Johnson to Pickens. I do think Pickens at wide receiver 35 is kind of interesting. He's had in the 5 games where he's gotten 6 or more targets, he's had over 14 fantasy points. With no Chase Claypool there, we'd expect him to get 6 targets here at least.
Jay, a huge letdown year for Najee Harris so far, and Jalen Warren kind of sneaking into this picture. But how much longer is the leash of keeping Najee in starting lineups in fantasy right now?
I'd compare it to the leash that Matthew Berry has on his nights out with Jeff Saturday and Chris Hemsworth. If he's not delivering at Live with the fellas, he's done. I think Najee Harris has probably got 1-2 more weeks. The murmurs are swirling that it's going to be the Jalen Warren show potentially. I still think Najee is the guy for this week, but be hugely concerned if I'm a Najee Harris manager. I mean, you've been concerned all season, really, but now the bottom could really fall out, and I think they might want to have a look at
Jalen Warren needs to be rostered here real quickly. I like Freiermuth, especially without Chase Claypool there in the middle of
he's had a 19% target share, and that was with Claypool. Now without Claypool, I believe he'll have a nice game on Sunday.
All right, we're going one more break, and when we're back, it is last call. We're talking weekend winners. Be sure to check out our new Sunday show, Fantasy Football Pregame at 11 a.m. live on Peacock. It's a one-stop shop for your NFL fantasy and betting needs. Get your sit-start questions answered using the hashtag FFPregame. Last call, fellas. Weekend winners. I am going with the Seattle Seahawks pulling off the upset. Yes, they are underdogs against Tampa Bay, winning over the hearts of the German football fans.
Yep. Nathaniel Hackett for me. Broncos win as underdogs in Tennessee with the rest. A lot of Tennessee injuries.
Josh Palmer, top 20 wide receiver with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams out. Listen, you don't have to go home, but you can stay here. For Connor, Pat, and Jay, I'm Matthew. Peace out. We'll see you Sunday. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.